Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. I'm back to break down this 8-game MLB DFS slate on Fanduel and Draftkings. Before we get into it, if you tuned in on Friday, I had announced that I would be releasing a new Patreon package, and that package is now up and running. So the link will be in the description. This package will feature power rankings, which will be my top 3 plays of the day at each position, regardless of salary on Fanduel and Draftkings. And then I'll have my cheat sheet, which will break down each individual site, my top plays at each position by price range. So we'll have high price range, mid price range, and low price range. And then we'll also have an exclusive Discord chat for you to hop in and ask me any questions before lock. So I had mentioned that I do work a 9-to-5 job, but I still want to be providing you guys with good content, and I can't make a video later in the day. So this is a way for you to hop into the Discord chat, ask me any questions that you have, if there's lineup changes, or if you're interested in who you should play at a certain price and you have 2 options, that type of deal. You can hop into the Discord chat and ask me those questions. So I'll be answering those, 6 o'clock up until lock. And then anytime I can throughout the day, if I see there's a question, I will. But I do have other stuff going on, and this is a great way for me to be able to do my own analysis and then answer questions you guys have. There's a lot of other stuff that goes into MLB DFS research that we can't quite get into in the morning videos. Things such as pitch data. If a guy's out there throwing a sinker 50% of the time and a hitter crushes the sinker, I'm going to have more interest in that hitter. So these are the type of things that you'll get when you become a patron of mine. In the power rankings, I'll be releasing this spreadsheet. You'll get the access to this spreadsheet as well, so you'll be able to target all the top pitchers and all the pitchers that aren't so great that you might want to play bats against. You'll be able to break that down using my spreadsheet, and then my power rankings will have notes to it, such as the sinker note that I had mentioned. So if I'm digging into data and I see that, I'm going to go ahead and include that to my Patreon members. So that's enough of the promo stuff. If you're interested in that, the link will be in the description. Go ahead and check that out. And without further ado, let's start breaking down this MLB slate. So as always, we like to go in and check out the K percentage for the pitchers on the slate. It's fantasy sports. We get points for strikeouts. And the first guy that sticks out is that in Garrett Cole. He's taking the bump again for the Yankees, taking on the Phillies. Looking at the Vegas odds, you'll see here we have Cole coming in as a 375 favorite. So clearly Vegas liking him a lot here, and the Yankees have a 6.18 implied run total. So it's looking like Cole's going to get a lot of run support, and he gets to take on a Phillies team that's not a terrible lineup, but they do have the strikeouts in there. And when looking at Cole's numbers, he's got that 37% strikeouts, ridiculous, top strikeout guy in the league. Always got to have interest in when he takes the mound. The ground ball and fly ball rate aren't the greatest. You can see it falls off a little bit. He's a big strikeout guy, though, so we're targeting him for the strikeouts. I mean, you're not really worried about them making contact, and then you have the 15.4% swinging strike rate on top of that. So it's just all-around elite stuff. Anytime he takes the mound, you're going to have interest. The splits against righties, solid across the board. The ground ball rate's a little bit in the orange, but just great across the board. And then the lefties, the ground ball and the fly ball rate, you can see are in the red. So he's still got that elite strikeout stuff. It even bumps up to 42% against lefties over here. So, I mean, you can make an argument that we want to see more lefties. The hard contact's there, but the K rate bumps up from a 31% to a 42%. So overall, I mean, it's Garrett Cole. You want to target him. He's an elite guy. He's got great stuff. And anytime he takes the hill, you're going to have interest in him. So the next thing we have to discuss is pricing. And he comes in at an $11K price tag on Fanduel, which isn't, I don't think, too bad. The immediate thing that comes to mind on the slate is we do have Coors Field, so we're going to have to figure out if we want to pay up for the elite pitching or if we want to play Coors Field, which is always a tough decision. And as we go here, we're going to figure out the bats we like, the pitching we like, and maybe we can figure out what our preference is as far as going Coors or going elite pitching. And I think that just adds to the dynamic of the slate and makes it more fun, but it's going to be difficult. Moving further along, you got Jacob Degrom, second on the slate in K rate. He takes on an Atlanta Braves squad who, once again, isn't really the lineup an ideal lineup to target, but it's Jacob Degrom. He's absolutely elite. You can see he's got the 3.03 CRA Sierra, and then he's got the 2.04 ERA, the 32% strikeout rate, and a 15.3 swinging strike rate. So all around great stuff, and then the ground ball and fly ball rates are even better than Garrett Cole, and then the walk rate's better and the hard hit rate's better. So both elite pitchers. DeGrom's a little less wild, I guess you could say, but you do get a little decrease in the strikeout rate, so it's a 32% clip versus a 37. And then splits, you can see great against righties, really no concerns there. And moving along to lefties, it gets a little worse, but still, we don't really care. I mean, he's got a 29% against lefties, and he's got a 34% against righties. So we want to target preferably right-handed heavy lineups, if at all possible. And today he gets to take on the Atlanta Braves, who, I mean, they're kind of 50-50. You know, they got the right-left thing going on. They got some switch hitters thrown in there. So matchup-wise, it's not the greatest, but the strikeouts are still going to be there. He's not a large favorite, so you have to factor that in as far as the win and the extra points we get for that. It's not as strong as a case that you can make for Garrett Cole at a 375 favorite, so that could be something that maybe lessens the appeal to go to DeGrom today. But still a great option. I mean, the guy's elite. You got to always have interest in him, and you have a 300 discount off Garrett Cole, so 10-7 versus 11K, something maybe you can't quite get up to that 11K. Maybe you really want that extra 300 to fit in a hitter you really like. And DeGrom can still go out there and provide you a great overall start. We have to look at weather today. There's a bunch of weather things, so I won't be able to update you later unless you become a patron, as I had mentioned. So, I mean, if you're interested, go ahead and join that. If not, keep an eye on the weather, and I'll try to I also will try to tweet later on, if at all possible, and update you guys on stuff. But you're going to have to, keep your head on your shoulders and keep a lookout for news and make sure you're on top of the weather, because if you're paying up for a guy like DeGrom that's 10-7 and there's going to be a delay mid-game and he's not going to get his full run as what, like, inning-wise and pitching-wise or pitch count-wise, you're not going to want to play him. So something you have to keep in mind. Keep an eye on the weather and make sure DeGrom's not going to get a delay mid-game and ruin that price tag. And then the same goes for Cole. Definitely important. And then moving further along, we have a guy here in Walker Bueller who I'm gonna go ahead and say don't play Bueller today, and it's not because he doesn't have good stuff. It's because of the pitch limit stuff they've been doing with him. His first appearance, he came out and threw 56 pitches. So if you look at his price tag on Fanduel, let's see, down here, Walker Bueller, he's at a 10K price tag. So that's too expensive. And then if we look at Draftkings, his price tag over there comes in at 10.3. So really not any better. He's a guy I'm going to say don't play today, unless we get news that they're just going to let him go. But it seems like they want to be cautious with him, and pitch count-wise, I mean, you can't really afford to pay 10K or 10.3K for a pitcher that's going to be on a pitch limit that heavy. I mean, I could see him getting up to 80 pitches today, maybe cranking him up 20 pitches, but even then, I'm really not. I don't want to play him on a pitch limit at 10K or in the 10K range at all. So that's my advice on Bueller. And then our third guy that we're looking at is Alec Mills. He's a guy that I had recommended playing his last time out, and it really paid off, actually. He went out and put up a good performance, and on that specific slate, he was actually I think he was the top overall pitcher or the second overall pitcher, but price-wise, I can tell you one thing, he was definitely the top pitcher. That particular slate was a little weird, so just a little bit of a different scoring dynamic. There weren't any really elite pitchers, but I had recommended him. He was cheap. He was in the 6K, and he went out and put on a great performance. And now he gets another time out there taking on the Kansas City Royals, who strike out a bunch. So we had discussed, he's got a 27% K rate. His ground ball and fly ball rates are great. And then if you scroll over to the splits, he's really good against right-handed hitters. He's got a 35% clip. I mean, that's top on the slate against right-handed hitting for a strikeout rate. That tops Degrom. And against lefties, it drops down to an 18%. But he's still great. Hard contact, fly ball rate, his WOBA, his hard hit rate. Everything's great over here. It's just the K rate's down. So, I mean, we are playing fantasy sports, as I always say. We're looking for strikeouts, so we want to target guys, or in this case, we want to target right-handed heavy lineups because he really excels against right-handers. And when looking at his matchup today, he's taking on a Royals team who's, I mean, they don't have a bunch. You get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 righties, but they're playing in Wrigley Field and the wind's blowing in again. Wrigley, I'm going to continue to say this, Wrigley is a field that is really impacted by wind. It's the field that's mostly impacted by wind in the entire league. The way the stadium is built, it's always the wind. When it picks up and is blowing out, you're going to love bats, and when it picks up and it's blowing in, you're going to love pitching. And you can see it's blowing in from left field at 16 miles an hour. So Alec Mills at a 7K price tag taking on the Kansas City Royals with the wind blowing in at Wrigley. You have to like him here. I mean, he's not in the 6K range anymore, unfortunately, so you do have that 1,000 increase in price. But with the conditions, and he's got good strikeout stuff, and his matchup's great for strikeouts, you got to like him. And we have a Coors Field slate. So, I mean, we haven't gotten into that yet, but we're going to have a lot of interest in the Coors bats, and we might need to go down to a Mills instead of a Cole or a Degrom. So this is something we're going to have to decide, but something definitely to think about. And, I'm definitely endorsing Mills in this spot at 7K. It's not ideal, but the conditions are there. He's got the strikeout stuff. We prefer him against righties, but Kansas City's a lineup that strikes out a ton. So we're just going to take the matchup, we're going to take the field conditions, and we're going to roll with it. And I really like the Mills play today. And then lastly, guys that we could have interest in. I mean, it kind of, honestly, it's tough today. There's not really, it's kind of packed at the pitching. I look at the pitching and I just see terrible and I see good. And it's adding an interesting dynamic to this slate. There's just good and there's just bad. And, we're going to get into the bats. But I do want to kind of give you guys another pitcher to play. And it's tough. It really is. Looking at matchups and looking at K rate and all that stuff, Brett Anderson is taking on the White Sox, who strike out a lot. But if you look at his K rate, he's only got a 12% K rate. Can't really endorse him. And so, I think the last guy I have to endorse, and it has to do with, he's a young guy with a lot of talent, and he can get the job done, but also his matchup is that in Frankie Montas. And Frankie's taken on the Seattle Mariners. He's got a 21% K rate, which isn't great. He's got a 10% swinging strike rate, which isn't great. But they're not terrible. He's got a 4.23 SIERA, which tells us he's a pretty decent overall pitcher, average, but not bad. And then he's got a 3.12 ERA, which actually stands out with the top guys as far as ERA is concerned. The ground ball and the fly ball rate's great. The hard contact's where he gets in trouble. But looking at his splits, he's absolutely great against righties as far as, calling him average. He's great against righties. And the lefties is where he has a little bit of difficulty. You can see the hard hit rates up to 43%, and the ground ball rates at 37%. So the lefties definitely give him more trouble. And, he's got the 22% K rate against lefties, which is higher, but the hard hit rate, as we discussed, isn't as appealing. So when looking at his matchup against the Mariners, you'll see that, they have 1, 2, 3, 4 righties. And the projected lineup's expected to be very left-handed heavy, and for good reason. They know the split, so they're going to adjust. But these lefties that they're putting in all have high K rates. So I don't mind targeting Frankie. He's 7-7, so you're going to pay a little more than the Mills play that we discussed. But Seattle's always a team you want to target. Frankie's got some talent, and he can definitely go out there and get the job done for you. And you just got to figure out the bats you want to go around it. He's definitely another option. And then lastly, a guy I have to mention, just numbers-wise and comparing to the rest of the slate, is a young kid in Mike Soroca, who's pretty talented across the board. You can see his numbers. He's 54% ground ball rate against righties. He's a sinker baller. He really excels at getting the ball on the ground. That's his bread and butter. He's just a really controlled pitcher. He doesn't have a lot of walk issues. You can see he's got a 5.9 walk rate. The walk issues aren't an issue at all. He's going to go out there. He's going to get the job done, especially as a real life pitcher. But when we're talking fantasy, he's got a 15% K rate against lefties, and the 23% against righties. And I was actually on the splits chart there, so that might have been a little misleading. So let's run that back for you guys. On this, his overall numbers, he's got a 4.25 SIERA, a 2.72 ERA, the 50% ground ball rate, and the 24% fly ball rate. I had already touched on that. He just does a great job of keeping the ball on the ground, and he's controlled. But he doesn't really get the most strikeouts. So when factoring that in and looking at his price tag and matchup, he's taking on a New York Mets squad, and he's A5. So I like him. I just don't know if I can really put him with the guys I've already mentioned. He's probably my next option behind them. But the guys I already mentioned, they're probably at the top of my list. And so I think that's enough talking about the pitchers we can target. It's really clear who's bad and who's good. So it's going to be an interesting slate. And with that being said, let's go ahead and start breaking down the bad. And the bad starts with that in Chi Gonzalez. Chi Gonzalez is a guy who is very bad at striking out or getting out or really pitching in Major League Baseball. I know that's harsh, but he's a guy, anytime he's on the slate, you got to have interest in stacking against him. He just stands out. He's got a 5.71 SIERA. He's got a 5.29 ERA, 16% K rate, 8.4 swing strike. This is all bad. And then his walk rate's terrible as well, and he's pitching in Coors Field. So that's just music to your ears as far as targeting bats. Against righties, he's really not good, and then against lefties, it gets worse. So Chi's a guy I'm going to fully endorse anytime he's pitching, especially in Coors Field. You just stack against him. So looking at who he's taking on today, we have the San Francisco Giants. And the Giants have a 5.94 implied run total. Giants have a 5.94 implied run total, and when looking at their pricing, they're not even priced up. So they're gonna be so heavily owned, it's ridiculous. And I can't say that I argue with that. I think that's reasonable. They should be high owned. And when looking at guys we want to target the guys with the power. So Alex Dickerson really stands out. Brandon Belt is expected to return. Look for his bat in the lineup. That's a great play at 3.6. I really like Brandon Belt. Longoria, Pablo Sandoval, Crawford. I really like all of them. Your favorite's got to be Yastrzemski at the top, ton of power. Dickerson, ton of power. Belt, ton of power. They really stand out. And then you got Sandoval. I like him. Longoria, he's a positional guy. We discussed we like the lefties preferably, but the righties also crush. So we're not really worried against Chi. We can really target anyone. The Solano, great play. Really all around, they're all great plays. And to be honest, I really think it's making your life easy. You can just throw in whoever you want from the Giants, and positionally wise and salary wise, and then throw in the pitcher you like and love your lineups. So that's my breakdown on the Giants. You got to like them a lot. And then moving further along on guys we want to target, second on the list is that Justice Sheffield. Justice was a guy that we discussed targeting last time out. He really hasn't blossomed in the majors. He's been struggling majorly. No pun intended. And, righties kill him at a 515 slugging, and lefties he's pretty decent with the lefties actually. I mean, strikeout and walk rate, he's terrible. He's got a terrible walk issue. So guys are going to constantly be getting on base, and he's going to be constantly in pressure situations. So for stacking, you got to like that. And slugging wise and home run targets, we're looking at the righties. So guys that we want to interested in against Justice this Oakland A's team is designed to kill lefties. So the fact that he struggles against righties and the fact that he's taking out a team designed to kill lefties, you got to like him, and the price tags are reasonable. So, I mean, the most expensive guy is that in Matt Chapman at third base, but he fills up that third base spot and he kills lefties, so you got to like him. The price tag isn't quite as appealing as some of these other guys we're going to get into, but you got to like him. Canna at 3K in the outfield is too cheap. Love him. Pinder at 2.5 is way too cheap. Love him. Chris Davis, gotta love him at 2.5. Piscotty, gotta love him at 2.6. And then Sean Murphy at 2.2. I like him a lot. Young kid, we haven't seen a lot of data on him, but from what I have seen, he has some power, and he definitely likes those lefties. So Laureano also power and speed, and Semien, you gotta like him at 3.3 at shortstop too. So another lineup that you really just have to like up and down. The pricing's too cheap. I don't understand the pricing today, and it's going to give you a ton of options because we have elite pitching and we have elite bats and cores, and you're going to be able to throw in so many options here in great matchups. So yeah, that's my breakdown on the A's. Gotta like them a lot. 4.91 run implied total, and then they get to face the Seattle bullpen coming in behind Justice, which is only going to help their case more. So, love the A's, they're underpriced. Love the Giants, they're underpriced. And moving further along, third on our list is that in Carlos Rodon, and he is taking on the Milwaukee Brewers. You can see his 4.89 Sierra, 20% K rate, and he's got a 9.9 swinging strike rate. And then the fly ball and the walk rates are really bad. The ground ball and the hard contact are actually stand out as being pretty decent. So it's not like he's a complete, quote unquote gas can that we're trying to target. But he does really struggle against lefties. Actually, I shouldn't say really struggles, but he struggles. I mean, we're talking orange across the board, so he struggles. And then righties, the hard hit rate and the slugging aren't the greatest, but the fly ball is terrible and the walk rate's bad. So another guy with walk issues, another guy that he's going to get himself in trouble and have guys on base. So that also, increases our interest in stacking. And when looking at the Milwaukee lineup, you'll see, honestly, not really my favorite lineup to target against left-handed pitching. I don't really find that they have a lot of guys. You got Ryan Braun, who won't be in the lineup. And Manny Pena is a guy. Pena is a guy that, he does crush left-handed pitching, so I like Manny here. But Jed Jerko also crushes lefties, like him. And then you got Avisail Garcia. I like him. But the top of the order, I really don't like. I mean, Christian Yelich is an elite hitter, but he has been struggling. His timing's off. He's coming off an injury, and he's trying to get back into it, and he just doesn't look. And he openly admitted, they had him mic'd up, and he's just like, my timing's off. I don't feel good. And so he's a guy I really want to say, go ahead and play him. He's going to be low owned. No one's going to play him. He's struggling. It's great. But the more I start to see his swing, the more I'm like, we might want to hold off and wait till he gets it back together. So you're kind of at your own discretion when it comes to Yelich right now. He's just struggling. But guys we want to target against the lefty are definitely, Avisail Garcia, Jed Jerko, and then you got Pena down here. And I don't mind Garcia either. So up and down the order, not really actually a team I'm really looking to target, but you got some good one-offs there, and they're at cheap prices. You could throw in a Jerko at 2.4 at third base and be really happy with that for salary saving. And then moving further along, guys we want to target. Danny Duffy stands out, and he really struggles against righties. We've gone over him in the past. And so, you would think you're really going to like these Chicago Cubs righties that crush left-handed pitching. But as we had discussed earlier, this wind is coming in at 16 miles an hour and left. So pitches that normally are going to be pulled out of the stadium, you might not really have as much interest in these plays. Um, it's just the win factor. It's a great spot on paper, but then you look on paper at the weather, and it draws me away from it. Javi Baez is a guy that I would be all over in this spot, and I'd say, you got to play Javi. He crushes lefties, and he's taking on Danny Duffy, but at 16-mile-an-hour winds blowing in on the from left field, the place he loves to just pull the ball. And Javi gets the ball in the air heavy. A lot of these right-handed guys that crush left-handed pitching, they're hitting bombs high up, and it's just going to die in that Wrigley wind. So sorry, that's my little rant on that, but I think it is important to mention. And then moving further along the list, a guy in Johnny Cueto who is in Coors Field, and he gets guys out with his deception. He doesn't really have the stuff anymore. He once did, but now he mixes up his timing. He throws in different pitches, different speeds. He tries to mix up his speeds, but at the end of the day, he gives up a lot of contact, and the ball's going to be put in play, and they're at Coors Field. And when looking at his splits, he's pretty decent across the board against righties. He really struggles with walks, though. And then lefties, he's got a 493 slugging. So, clearly, and then the ground ball rate's a 36% rate. So that just adds to the appeal to the lefties. So I don't really have an issue with targeting the righties. His numbers aren't terrible against righties, but he is in Coors. But it's the lefties that we really like here. And when looking at the Colorado lineup, they have some lefties that rake. You got David Dahl at the top. You got Charlie Blackmon, Daniel Murphy, Ryan McMahon, and then Sam Hilliard's not a bad option either. This just adds to. It's almost frustrating when the pricing is this bad, but you got to just take advantage of it when it is. And McMahon and Murphy are at 36 and 3-3, so they're the first guys I'm gonna go ahead and endorse. I mean, that's too cheap. They fill up the first base spot, and they fill up your second base spot, and then you could also throw them in at your utility position. They're in Coors Field. They're facing a guy that struggles against lefties, and they're like in the low 3K range. I don't get it, but I mean, yay for our lineups type of deal. Just throw them in there and feel great about it. You have to factor in ownership. These guys are going to be highly owned, but there's really no argument against them in the spot. So, I mean, it doesn't take a genius to point that out, but you gotta like them. You gotta like them, and it's a matter of differentiating your lineups in different ways. So we have the elite pitching, we have the low tier pitching, we have the bats, we have everything on this slate. So can't complain. I'm just worried about the Coors Field ownership. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't play Coors Field, because you definitely should, but just know what you're getting yourself into if you're playing in tournaments. These guys are all going to be highly owned, and I think that's what we're dealing with on this slate today. A lot of Coors bats. But the weather is a factor, and we're going to have to look at the weather and keep that in mind. So, and then lastly, another guy we want to target is that in Derek Holland. And Derek Holland's taking on a Minnesota Twins team who I feel like I've been mentioning every slate, but for good reason. They're a really good lineup. And when we're talking guys that kill lefties, they have a great lineup, and the pricing, once again, it's not good enough in my opinion. Mitch Garver is the guy they lead off against lefties, and he absolutely destroys left-handed pitching. His numbers are ridiculous against lefties. You have to play him. He's 2.5. So I'm going to put some emphasis on Garver today. Play Mitch Garver. He's 2.5. He's taken on a lefty in Holland. When you look at Holland's numbers, you can see his splits against righties are terrible. I mean, look at this red that's popping up against right-handed hitting for Holland today. It's not looking good for him, and you gotta love Minnesota. And the guys that stand, Garver, Nelson Cruz, absolute must play. 5K in this spot, I'd play him, and I'm not exaggerating. the boomstick they call him. He kills left-handed pitching, and he's taking on Holland, who can't strike anyone out. You don't have to worry about the strikeout rate, and you look at the fly ball and the hard hit rate against right-handed hitting, and it's just looking scary good for Cruz today. Scary good. You got to play Cruz. Miguel Sano also love him, and then I'm really emphasizing this, but when you look at the lineup, they actually do have a lot of lefties in there. So maybe not like a full-on appeal stack. Maybe like the A's we discussed earlier, who was just loaded with righties and they're taking on the lefty. You love them. So maybe not as appealing stack-wise, but I mean these righties, they look real good. And when you look at the numbers against lefties, he has a lot of green, so he's a heavy splits guy. And I just really want to put some emphasis on these plays in Mitch Garver and Nelson Cruz. Nelson Cruz is going deep today. I love the spot for him. If he's in the lineup, he's hitting a home run. So play Nelson Cruz. That's my call. And that's pretty much my breakdown of the slate. You have, let's go over what we've gone over so far. You got the Yankees as heavy favorites at home with Garrett Cole on the mound, so you got to like Garrett Cole in this matchup. You got to like him in every matchup. It's just a matter of the price. $11K I think is reasonable. And he's not taking on the Orioles like last time out, but the Phillies definitely have some strikeouts in them, and it's Garrett Cole. So, I mean, his strikeout rate is ridiculous, pushing 40%, and you got to like him. You got Degrom taking on Atlanta, not as appealing of a spot, but we talked about, he doesn't walk people as much, and he's just an elite pitcher, so you always have to have interest in him. We got to keep an eye on the weather. It looks like they're going to get these games in. It's just a matter of if there's going to be a delay and when the delay is going to come. So if they have a late start and then the pitcher goes out there, we don't have to worry about it. But if they're starting and then we'll think there's going to be a delay in like the third or fourth inning, a long delay, that's when you don't want to play the starting pitcher, because there's a good chance he might not make it back out there. The Brewers, we had discussed some one-offs for the Brewers. Avisail Garcia, Jed Jerko. You got Pina, and then Arcia is a pretty decent play, but he's at the bottom of the order, so that limits the appeal. But he's only 2-2 when he's in the shortstop spot, so I could see that play for some salary relief. And then you got the Twins. Absolutely love these right-handed hitters that crush lefties. Mitch Garver, love him. Nelson Cruz, love him. Miguel Sano, love him. Really like Mitch Garver. Really like Nelson Cruz. Really like Miguel Sano. I can't put enough emphasis on that. You look at the numbers; they're popping. They're popping off the page today. Chicago, really like Mills on the bump, and the right-handed crushers in Chicago are options I would have interest in, but with the wind blowing in from left as heavily as it is, I'm not going to go there. Coors Field, ton of interest. These price tags are too low. I don't understand it. The Giants are too low all the way down the lineup. You can really play anyone. I know that's broad and kind of boring analysis, but I think it's true. Just throw in. I mean, we prefer the lefties, so Belt, and we prefer the guy with power. So guys I like on the Giants today are Yastrzemski, Alex Dickerson, Brandon Belt. I like Sandoval. I like Longoria more so for his position. He's at third baseman, and he's got a 3-3 price tag, so I like him. And then the bottom of the lineup isn't the greatest plays, but you got to factor in ownership, and those guys won't be as highly owned, and they're still in a great spot. They don't have the power maybe, but maybe these guys get walked up here, Chi-Chi's walk problems or whatever, and then these guys play cleanup with some 2 RBI singles, and that can definitely add to your score and make you go up the leaderboard with guys that are low owned. Colorado, you got to love really anyone, but the lefties we do prefer. And then you got to look at price tags. So Daniel Murphy and McMahon really stand out. I will say I probably should have put more emphasis on this earlier, but I mean, Arenado and Story are the guys, they're elite hitters, and when they go to Coors, they perform. So got to love them automatically. I want to make sure that's clear. Even though they're not left-handed hitters, Story and Arenado you playing when they go to Coors. So like those guys. And then further down the list, Frankie Montas taking on the Seattle Mariners, a great strikeout matchup. Gotta like him. He's not elite, but he comes in at a mid-range price tag at 7.7, and the matchup's great. So you gotta like Frankie. And the A's pretty much all the way down the lineup crush left-handed pitching, and Justice really struggles against righties. So guys I like, really, I can honestly say I like every single righty in this lineup. If you're asking me to pick my favorites, I'm going to go with I like them all. Price tags, price tags, price tags. That's the thing. That's the great thing about this situation is you can put in any other stack you want, and then positionally wise, you can pretty much filter in any of the A's and like your lineup. So I don't want to be too broad, but it's kind of true. They all rake lefties. I like Chris Davis. I like Chad Pinder. I like Canna. I like Laureano. I like Chapman. I like Semien. I like Piscotty, and I like Murphy. I really do. I really do like all those guys. So it gives you flexibility to stack them with another lineup, and I like the A's a lot. And, that's pretty much my breakdown of today's slate. We have some elite pitching. We have some Coors bats. I think it's going to be a fun slate tonight. And, just analyze these price tags, analyze which pitchers you want to fit in, and throw in the guys around it. And I think it's going to kind of make it easy to make lineups, and you're going to like what you build no matter what. So that's all for me today. If you enjoyed the content and you think you're going to tune in again, go ahead, like this video, hit the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell so you'll be notified of future videos. If you're interested in my new Patreon package, the link will be in the description. You'll gain access to my exclusive content as well as my exclusive Discord chat. And then I'm over there on Twitter at KJK_DFS. I'll be tweeting out updates later on in the day whenever possible as far as weather, be tweeting out when I release videos. And then I'll be tweeting out, some fun calls if I see a guy I really like. Hint today, Nelson Cruz. You gotta love Nelson Cruz. So I'll sign off with that. Play some Nelson Cruz. I wish you all the best of luck tonight, and have a good one.